Welcome back to Part 7 of our ED Facility Coding Masterclass. Today, we're talking about a very specific scenario that happens in designated trauma centers. You know how in a video game, to unlock a massive bonus score, you have to execute a perfect combo move by hitting two specific buttons at the exact same time? Well, in facility coding, combining a formal trauma team activation with at least 30 minutes of critical care acts exactly like that combo move. Hitting both unlocks a very specific HCPCS code, G0390.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the trauma combo unlock, the 30-minute trap, mapping the trauma tiers, and finally, claim setup and auditing.
Section 1. The trauma combo unlock.
So when a designated trauma center calls a formal trauma team activation and actually delivers active critical care, boom, you unlock HCPS code G0390. This code falls under APC 5041. But listen, you can't just slap it on the claim because the patient looked really sick or the team was super busy. The rules are incredibly strict here, and you have to meet very specific criteria to legally report this code.
Here is your two-button combo. A patient absolutely must meet two major pillars. First, there has to be pre-hospital notification from EMS based on field triage criteria. Plus, the hospital has to give the appropriate trauma team response. That earns you revenue code 068X for the trauma activation costs. That's button number 1. Button number 2, your facility staff must deliver at least 30 minutes of active, face-to-face critical care, which is CPT 99291. You've got to hit both to unlock G0390. If EMS forgets to call ahead, or if you don't hit that time requirement, the combo completely fails.
Section 2. The 30-minute trap. 30 minutes is the magic threshold. If the active critical care time drops below 30 minutes during a trauma activation, the combo breaks entirely. Even if you have 29 minutes of intense, life-saving critical care, it's just not enough to build a combination code. You have to clear that 30-minute mark with absolute certainty. No exceptions.
So what's the financial impact when you fall short? If you have less than 30 minutes of critical care, the facility actually can still bill revenue code 068X for the trauma response itself, but you cannot report HCPCS code G0390. What happens instead is that the payment for the trauma response just gets packaged or bundled right into the regular visit level, like a level 5 visit code 99285. You completely lose that separate unbundled payment that G0390 provides.
Section 3. Mapping the trauma tiers. Designated Level 1 through 5 hospital trauma centers use specific internal subcategory codes, ranging from 6511 to 6523. These exist for one simple reason. They help your facility translate the size of the trauma team response, whether that's a massive full team or just a partial team, and the intensity of care, into a billable metric.
Let's walk through this logically. Look at the top row. A full team activation, which we call T1, combined with 30 minutes of critical care, code 99291, maps internally to code 6511. But look right below it. If you have that exact same full T1 team, but you don't hit the 30-minute critical care mark, and it drops to a level 5 visit, code 99285, the internal code changes to 6512. And this exact same logic scales down. A T2 partial team with critical care is 6519. Without it, it's 6520. A T3 response with critical care is 6522, and without it, it drops to 6523. It's a direct, mathematical mapping of team size and care intensity.
Section 4. Claim setup and auditing.
When a major trauma rolls through the doors, it is pure chaos. Your team is literally running down the hallway to save a life. But as a coder, your documentation has to capture the exact timeline of that response in a calm, highly detailed way to prove you actually earned the combo code.
Auditors are actively hunting for missing information here. Your checklist needs to be flawless. First up, they're going to look for the trauma team roster sign-ins. Did the full team actually assemble? Second, they'll check the EMS pre-arrival notification log. If EMS just showed up at the door without calling ahead based on field triage criteria, you lose the 068X revenue code entirely. Finally, they will scrutinize those nurse flowsheet timestamps. You must prove you have 30 or more clean minutes of critical care. And remember from our earlier lessons, clean means 30 minutes after you subtract any time spent on separately billable procedures.
Before hitting submit, ensure your claim form perfectly aligns these 4 elements. Form Locator 14 has to show a Type 5 admission indicating trauma. The revenue code must be 060X for the trauma response. The CPT code has to be 99291 to prove the critical care time.
And finally, the HCPCS code G0390 ties it all together for the additional payment. If any single piece of this puzzle is missing, the claim is going to error out or fail an audit for sure. And that wraps up our deep dive into the G0390 trauma combo rules. Understanding how all these pieces interlock is exactly what separates average coders from great ones. But ask yourself this: if your documentation fails to capture just 1 minute of critical care, dropping you from 30 to 29 minutes, how much revenue did your facility just lose? Think about it. Now, the ED obviously does a lot more than just major traumas. Join us in Part 8 to find out exactly what happens when the ED gives injections, pushes IV meds, or performs CPR, and how we handle those tricky status indicators. See you there.